Oh my God! Oh no! Oh,
sorry.
Oh dear God! That is a really good George C.
Keep
Scott.
that in. We can clip that and put it in the.
Do you need to make this longer?
No,
It's going to be here.
I really dig you, I do. I really dig you, I do.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to Shooting the Shindig. I'm Garr.
And I'm Eric, and today we're joined by our good friend.
Richard?
Yeah.
Hey! All
That's
right.
Not a question.
All right. Sounds good.
You know what?
We jerry it here.
Breaks me up all the time is my friend at work, who's straight, by the way.
Yes.
Will do that. Hey, do fries come with that shake? And I know that's so ridiculous. That is so stupid.
Yeah, right.
But it'll be a guy. It'll be a girl. It doesn't matter because
Toddler.
Yeah. Well, not that. But he's okay because he knows that I know that's funny.
Yes.
If it's a guy and he's obviously swishing,
Correct.
he's like, "Hey, baby, the fries go with that shit." And I don't even know what that means, but it's incredibly funny to me.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just provocative.
It's just a really stupid thing that comes from.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I know, and it's funny that it doesn't mean anything to me, but I enjoy saying it, and I enjoy hearing somebody else even more say it to me.
I totally get that. Yes. Well, that you think it's funny is very insightful.
Yeah, and if it were like me, and I was straight, and it was women, yes, that is demeaning. That's kind of offensive.
See, the thing
and all
is
that.
no matter how much we talk about that, men always look at women.
Of course. And
that's
gay men
fine.
look at other men.
Yes.
I mean, that's just...
And lesbians look at chicks.
Of course.
And women look at dudes.
And none of that should
But that's
be...
objectification. And
But
Some
it
amount of that
shouldn't
is
be.
okay.
But I think that's right, because I think that's what we do as humans.
There's a difference between attraction and objectification. You can be turned on by a person without treating people as objects.
Well, how do you not do that if you're just looking at somebody looking at their aesthetics?
Well, I'm just saying the same shit I always say.
We're talking about objectification.
No,
And I
have
think
no idea
this
what
is
we're
the thing,
So
is
that's my thing about
if we were allowed to just appreciate other people and it wasn't a thing...
But don't you think that's so important that our brain tells us to reproduce? It doesn't matter if it's men with men or men with women or with anything. It doesn't matter. It's reproduce. Go out there and reproduce.
We'll go out and have sex.
Correct.
Well, but sex is
for us,
instinctual.
Sex is for the
Yeah,
reproduction.
and it should be okay, and it should be able to be very casual, and as long as everybody's on board, nobody's going to want a relationship or something like that. What is wrong with just having fun?
Absolutely.
hooking up and having fun as long as
everyone's on the same page.
yes,
Consenting adults.
yeah.
Everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's the most ridiculous thing to me is if I had kids, I would be expecting they're going to have sex.
Yes.
Just be careful, be safe, and don't get emotionally involved when you're 16 and you're not going to marry
That's
this
the hard
person.
part because
And it is
at that
tough.
age you're trying to figure out
Sure.
what that's about.
But making believe that you don't think your kids are going to have sex because you raised them right or they're religious
If you
or
raise
whatever,
them
that's
right,
ridiculous.
That's just
It's
being
ridiculous.
naive.
You're gonna
Yes,
have sex. Make sure you're protected.
exactly.
Exactly.
And prepared for what
And
comes
prepared.
with all that. Just because this is your first person doesn't mean that's it for the rest of your
That's
life.
correct.
Don't expect that. It's what it is. It's going to be nice. It'll be
Hopefully
hopefully
it'll be
good
nice,
for
yes.
you as it is for them. But don't think, oh, I'm 14, I'm 15.
I'm in love.
This is
Yes,
I'm
this
in
is
love
it.
and this
Yes.
is going to be it
Rest
for the
of my
rest of
life.
my life.
Absolutely.
And when you're that age, you think, fuck that. This is going to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
In spite of what everybody says. In spite of people saying the reality.
Yeah.
The reality is the likelihood that you're with this person. And there are people, I know people actually that knew each other in school, got together.
Yeah. The person they're with is the first person that they were with. And that
Yeah.
does happen, but
Not even that necessarily.
But you don't need that pressure of going into those kinds of things that you're going to want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if it
you're a
works, it
human
works.
being.
And if not, then that's also fine.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, yeah, you hit a home run the first at bat, but
Yeah.
most of the time,
That's not likely. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, most of the time you
exactly.
don't. And that's
hopefully
okay.
You get fine-tuned. To
Also, you don't know
what
who
it is
you
you're
are when you're 17.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And she doesn't know who she is, or he doesn't know who he is,
Yeah.
or them doesn't know who they are.
Yeah, and in 15 years, you might be totally different people. So
You should
Almost,
be different people.
almost
Hopefully,
guaranteed.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, even people who don't change that much change some, and they're still different people.
Mm-hmm.
Even dipshits.
Yes. Even dipshits.
I don't know about dipshits.
No, even dipshits are different people 15 years later. They've had things
Well, I come
happen.
from a place where dipshits run rampant, so
Well, yes, but they still are different dipshits.
it's true.
There's dipshits everywhere, though.
And I'll shit on where you're from because it's crap. No offense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when you're young, you don't know. When you're trying to figure it out.
We're talking about Arizona.
Yeah, big time.
And sorry, which part of Greater Stupid
I'm from Phoenix.
Phoenix proper?
Yes.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking Scottsdale.
No, at the opposite end. I mean,
Yes.
it was right on the border with Glendale. but-
Okay. Oh,
Yeah. But it's
They're hoping to
Which
fill
is-
it in all the way to Tucson.
yes, the weird,
They will eventually,
For-
unless the water
very close
runs
to it.
out.
for a while, Glendale, Arizona was home to the highest percentage of millionaires
Really?
in the country. Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and it was really peculiar, but anyhow.
I mean, it's a big retirement state.
Exactly.
Glendale?
You know,
Glendale.
Arizona
Yeah.
and Florida
What
have
happened?
very similar. It's funny because now they're flipped. Now, between the two of them, Arizona is the more progressive one, and Florida is the more degenerate one.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Whereas 15 years ago,
was up.
Florida was more progressive because of the newer
Yes.
snowbirds, and Arizona was the like World War II veteran
Yeah,
crowd.
because
and
we
it was
have the huge retirement communities.
yeah,
out
absolutely.
there.
Both states
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Sun City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're both crazy. Let me be on the record. You know, Arizona and Florida. You know, also I hate the hot weather, so I'm biased.
Well, I will tell you
I live
this.
the
I've
Northeast and the
been in
Northwest.
Florida in the summer, in the heat, and
yeah.
I would pick Arizona
You'd be humid
weather
in
over
Florida.
weather in the summer.
Really humid.
Because sister girl, I'm Cajun, so I know about hot,
It's
humid, muggy
horrible.
summers.
You get out of the shower, you get dressed, you walk
you're wet.
outside, and you're wet the whole time you're out there.
Yeah.
It is so uncomfortable.
And you
At
can't
least
sweat it off
I'm
'cause the sweat
sweating,
doesn't
but it's drying
evaporate.
off in
Yeah.
George
Phoenix.
Costanza saying it didn't take.
Yeah.
My shower didn't take.
When I would be like in high school and I'd be visiting my grandmother or whatever, and I'd be like jogging, and it would be like it's like you're swimming through the air.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it
Unbearable.
feels really thick. Even when you're
Yeah,
breathing,
soupy.
it feels thick when it's really
Right.
humid. And that's something I never had in Phoenix. And I'm
Polar
not saying
opposite.
one or the other. If it
Right.
was an option of, no politics or anything like that, well, Florida is beautiful. It's green. Every plant you could imagine grows there.
Right.
And is it hot and humid? Yeah. But is it hot and dry in Arizona?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like the desert landscape. So
Yeah.
to me, I would rather live somewhere where it's green and beautiful.
Right. I agree.
So
Yeah.
Not much to look at.
If it's gonna be hot, I'd rather it be.
Cinder block
Arid
houses
than
and white
humid.
pickup trucks with American flags on them.
not just white.
But I would never live in Arizona. I just.
If you want
That's
to know
what I
where,
used to
where
say.
they're all parked up the corner from Mom's house at Ronnie's Cafe. It's actually pretty good food, but it is so scary, the people that go there, that I don't want any part of it. And
There's people with cowboy hats that walk in.
well, see, that's the thing is people
not thinking
here
anything about it.
people here think cowboy hats and boots is like a costume you wear at Halloween.
Correct.
And it's like, no, that's
No,
what
they
I grew
wear
up
that
with.
in
That's what
Arizona.
people over there wear. Is cowboy hats
Well, because it protects from the
cowboy.
sun.
Yeah,
Well,
and I get that.
And Arizona is the West.
It is, and it's incredibly hicky, even in the 21st century.
The southern half of Arizona and New Mexico were on the Confederate side of the Civil War because technically New Mexico and Arizona are below the Missouri Compromise line, and so technically free game for slavery. So when the Civil War happened, the New Mexico Territory, which was ostensibly on the Union side, split in two, and the southern half, which was called Arizona Territory, but it was the southern half of both New Mexico and Arizona, whereas the northern half was New Mexico, which was the northern half of New Mexico and Arizona. Confusing. Was on the Confederate side. It's crazy. So that's where, I mean, Barry Goldwater was from Arizona.
Yeah.
The precursor to the modern day Republican Party.
Yeah.
He dressed in drag.
He was terrifying.
There you go.
Well, the thing that I remember when I was in high school, and Barry Goldwater came and spoke to our senior class, as a government thing. Yeah.
He scared my parents.
And
terrifying.
Actually, I was like, I'm oddly, I don't dislike him. And because I'm staunchly Democrat, but so Republican, even older Republicans.
But he impressed you.
Which was, he did as a person, but what I've found out over the years, and if you grew up there, kind of know, is he was a really big, well-respected photographer of Arizona.
You're kidding.
No.
Barry Goldwater?
He totally was.
Really?
A lot of his work came out in Arizona Highways magazines, and he had one of the most significant collections of Kachina dolls.
Really?
Which he donated to the Heard Museum in Phoenix. And I've seen, when I was back there the last time, I think, a documentary on PBS about his life. And he was really respectful of the Native American community at a time where that wasn't really a thing. But he did. And my gut feeling is I realized his politics were a little different than mine.
Right.
But even towards the end, I know a lot of Republicans were really, he's obviously senile because he was coming out in favor of gay rights and marriage. And
Barry
Goldwater. And part of that was because he had a grandson that is gay. But he was open enough to realize that there's a lot of different things out there. And the his own party was saying he's senile, he doesn't know what he's talking about because they didn't like that he was coming out in favor of that.
How about that?
And so I had a little more respect for him.
That's an interesting fact.
Yeah.
I'd like to research
And that's the thing is back then, Democrat and Republican, they were different in philosophy and their ideals, but it wasn't like one was totally hating on the other. And he's of that generation. I think when Reagan came around, that was different. He was just...
But Barry Goldwater was part of what sowed that differentiation, that sort of culture war. He was sort of that father of the modern conservative movement, which is sort of, yes, he was of a different era, so he wasn't as bad as the things that he fostered, but he was a big part of that culmination. Yeah.
And I understand that.
And we've talked about this before, Garr. That's part of Hillary Clinton's background because she was very Christian growing up, still was. Should have played that up when she was running. If she were, smart, she would have played up the I'm a hardcore Methodist, can quote you scripture, chapter and verse. But she was a Goldwater girl growing up in Illinois. A Goldwater girl. She was a fan of Barry Goldwater. In her teens, early 20s, or however old she was then. I can't do math, but Hillary Clinton, 64.
I was at that party at Karen's house when Karen's mother, who was very strict Republican, was talking to a room full of people and said, "I hate Hillary Clinton." And there was a little silence, and in that silence I said, "She says some very nice things about you." And everybody laughed. She didn't hear it though because she was on that where she wanted to talk about why she didn't like Hillary Clinton.
And did she say why she didn't like her?
I didn't care at that point. I got the laugh. I got the laughs, and I was satisfied.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
I think I walked out after that. There you are.
Hey, Garr.
Yes.
So last time we talked about coleslaw. Do you want to tell the coleslaw story?
Yeah. I had a girlfriend. Her name was Stacy. And she had a dad that worked for Volkswagen as a janitor in the main office in Culver City.
Oh.
And he provided for his family. But he wasn't very bright, and he was an alcoholic. And he used to carry me around the house. He'd grab my head, and he'd carry me around the house, and he'd pat me on the head and say, your top drawer, your top drawer. And he was one of those alcoholics that would binge. So he'd drink and drink and drink and drink for like 3-4 weeks straight. And then he wouldn't drink for 3 or 4 weeks. So when he was lucid and not drunk, he was a different person than when he was drunk. And of course, that was when he carried me around the house.
So which was the better, when he was drunk or sober?
Well, I would have to say sober was much better. But when he was drunk, he had a song called the Coleslaw Song that he sang. And he added verses to it over the years. But it would start off, I've got coleslaw and all of my pockets over you. It sounded like that. My little darling coleslaw. So I was in a band, Junior G-Men at the time, and we played at this club that was known for its punk history. Darby Crash killed himself there. That was a big event, I guess. Anyway, we were playing at this club.
Where was this?
What was the club?
It's called Club 88. It was on Pico.
Oh, okay.
And it's not there anymore. And so we were playing there, and after we were done, Stacy's dad walked up on stage, and I'm thinking, oh no, he's going to ruin it. You know, he gets up on the microphone, he starts singing the Coleslaw Song, and then the sound man turned him up, and pretty soon the crowd was all singing along with Coleslaw in all of my pockets over you, my little darling. And that's basically it. I think I hit all the...
What about the part where he goes, go home and fuck that bitch?
Oh, he's ruining it. You know, he's making us look bad. But he didn't. He made us look better. I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, what about when he would say, when we go home, fuck that bitch, or whatever?
Oh, yes, and that old bird.
Oh, so yeah, even better.
He got drunk, his wife, Stacy's mother.
Long-suffering smart woman.
She was intellectual, and she worked at the Museum of Natural History.
Here?
Yeah. In L.A., and that was her job. She worked there for many years. And then she would come home and she would sit at the kitchen table and read. And Stacey's dad would go off on his little tirades, whatever they were, you know, and they'd say, I'm going to go in there and fuck that old bird.
I can check it out.
Yeah, Stacey's dad.
That's okay.
That sounds like a British thing to say, to refer to somebody as a bird.
Yes, but it was so non-British. It was just this white guy.
Just working class.
He worked, he
salt of the earth.
Chatsworth. So that was Stacy's dad. And
well, you know.
Also, Stacy's dad, he had a big family. He had eight kids. Oh. So inevitably, something would get broken at the house, like the plumbing or the electricity or something. And he'd go in there to fix it. And from wherever he was, he would go, damn it, damn it, damn it. Damn it, damn it. And it got to the point where the kids would kind of like laugh at him, you know, like for being in there fixing the plumbing and, you know. God, yeah, that was a long time ago.
You know what I always say is, damn it, Janet.
Damn it, Janet.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, well, we did see the play when somebody staged it in Phoenix, a small company. Yeah, but I don't know that I've ever seen the movie.
What?
But I know that's like a really big thing.
You owe it to yourself.
That
movie? But every time I say, like, damn it, Janet.
Gar, you know who loves that movie is my mother.
Movie. Yeah, I'll bet she does. Yes.
Yes.
It's a fine one. It came out in 1975.
I realize that, and I know who's in it, and I love them, but, you
not
know.
only do you need to see it, you need to go to the theater and watch it.
Well, that's the one thing I don't know. Do they still do that?
Oh, my God, yeah. They still do that.
Theater.
The New Art Theater.
Really?
Yeah, Gar, I told you about the time that I shamed my family name at the New Art Theater, right?
No.
Oh, when I vomited everywhere and then like had to Uber home and they thought that I was on heroin, but I was just too drunk for the...
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
That's a good story.
I definitely told you that before, but it's a classic. Oh, man. An embarrassing moment for me. And that never happened to me before. You know, I was just, you know.
Wow.
All because of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
See, the funny thing is, any of my too drunk stories, I I don't really remember, so it's up to somebody else to tell me.
Well, I remember the basic factors of it. Like I don't like I most of that night is just sort of.
Okay, so I remember like I was at the Eagle Bar in Silver Lake, and I know we got home from there in an Uber, so I know that much.
Yeah.
But like Bruce has shared with me some of the details of what happened. I was like, really? Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
Wow.
And, you know, I was...
You think that's a good thing that you don't remember?
I'm kind of curious, actually, to know. And you know how now Ray-Ban makes these Wayfarers that have cameras in them?
Oh, cameras.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I keep telling Bruce, I said, I want to get some of those. I want to have those as my regular glasses with regular lenses so I can see. So that way I can, and I think it hooks up to your phone, and that's what actually records what's going on.
I'm a big fan of Wayfarers.
And I'm like, I would love just to know what happened in those times where between brunch and, you know, getting home, I don't know really what happened. Or at the bar where after like the fourth round, it's like, I know we got home from there. I remember getting out and getting in the front door, but I don't really remember what happened between there. And I think it would be kind of fun.
Do you think it was anything significant?
Well, Bruce says that I had my pants pulled down, so that's a little significant.
That could be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It might
I
tend to
guess, you know, I was going down on some guy at the bar. And,
At the
you know,
bar?
Yeah. It was the Eagle, though. And I mean, they're kind of known for
They
that,
do that
sort of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in Phoenix, it's been much worse. I mean,
Worse?
Yeah. I mean, there's a cruisy bar there in Phoenix that I would go to when I was there, you know, to kind of, because I don't really like spending time by myself.
Right.
And when I would be there, Mom would be in the hospital or something like that.
Right.
And I would come home after visiting hours, and I'm like, I don't want to be home by myself. So I would go to the bar.
Yeah.
And I would have a few drinks, and, you know, one thing led to another, and I was doing something. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been very active in one of
But
the
you didn't have
bars
Bruce there to tell you what you did.
No, I didn't. But I'm sure because everybody videos everything, that somewhere on the internet is a video of me doing something in the bathroom at the Anvil Bar in Phoenix.
I thought it was the Eagle Bar.
The Eagle Bar is here
Oh,
in
Silver
Silver
Lake,
Lake.
yes.
Yeah, the Anvil Bar is in Phoenix. Yeah.
The Anvil Bar.
So it's a nice bar.
To return to that point from earlier, I wouldn't want to be in either Florida or Arizona. Fuck both of that. This is way too hot.
Yes.
Well, besides that, though, the gay scene is repressed over there in both states, right?
Yeah,
Well-
you know, it's actually better now in Phoenix than it was when we lived there.
Really?
Yeah,
How so?
there's a more obvious presence, and it's significant as far as being there and being visible. Mm-hmm. And there's even actually the part of town where Bruce lived when we were, you know, dating is right there in the heart of the gay district, pretty much
about
in
that?
Phoenix. Yeah. So that's actually, he lived behind a gay bar. And I keep saying to him, why did we not go to the bar like every night when you lived behind there? Because we didn't have to worry about getting home because
Yeah.
you lived right there,
Correct.
right behind it. So we
Yeah,
just
why
had to
wouldn't
walk.
you?
And it was so
Lost
weird that
opportunity.
We really, yeah, it was. It actually was kind of like a lost opportunity.
Really?
Yeah, it's so odd that we did. You know what?
Well, everything's obvious in retrospect, you know?
Yeah, but you know what the biggest factor is that since we first met, that we have never really had a lot of means. You know, we've never both been making good money or anything like that. So it's always been we're needing to watch all the, you know, what we spend everything on.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because otherwise we would be at the bar every night. You know, if we had the money to spend on drinks.
If you had the money to spend, you wouldn't go there and let them sucker you for the price of drinks.
Actually,
You just party at home.
yeah, and you're right. But in Phoenix, alcohol's pretty cheap at the bars. It's not like here, you know, it's a little more expensive.
Come to think
here.
of it, we went to a bar, my ex-wife and I went to a bar to meet a couple. And they just poured these. It was like rum and Coke was half rum and the rest Coke. It was cheap stuff.
Yeah.
And so I got really sick. And
Really?
on the way back to meet this couple, but once that happened, I was okay. I was fine after that. So, but yeah, I mean that could be true. Maybe they make stiffer drinks in Arizona than here.
Well, it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheap with cheap. Yeah, cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Yeah, but the thing I've noticed is, and I kind of try to convey this, is when you go, and even though the drinks are cheap, tip really well.
Yeah.
Because after, 1 or 2 rounds, you notice that your bartender is pouring you a little stiffer drink. Mm-hmm. Because he appreciates the fact that the drink is cheap, but don't tip cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you
give it
scratch
to
my
the,
back,
give it to
I'll
the
scratch
bartender
yours.
rather than the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's a worker focused action. Reward the person who's doing the work as opposed to the establishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. A little proletariat.
Yeah, we all fight the good fight in all the ways that we can.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Have each other's back. That's what we're always talking about.
Yes. So they closed a lot of the places because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
The places where you would go, right?
Yes.
So now what do you do?
Well, it's kind of a little frustrating, because you don't have the variety anymore.
Variety
of different places to go. Yeah. So each one kind of has its own mood and the kind of clientele they attract.
What does?
Each of the different places.
Yes.
Like if you're talking about bars or like the sex clubs and stuff like that, all of them would kind of have their different clientele that tends to go there. Like in Phoenix, they have 2 sex clubs. One's a bathhouse, from way back.
You're talking about gay sex clubs.
Yes, gay sex clubs.
Yeah.
And the Flex is like a traditional bathhouse that has the sauna and the pool and all that. And then the Shoot is in the middle of the city, but it doesn't have like pool or hot tub or anything. It does have a steam room, but it's more of a sex club.
Yeah.
Are
they open now?
And they are open.
Oh.
But they used to be open 24 hours, and now they're not. And I heard from somebody at the bar when I was in Phoenix, and he was saying that the reason they weren't open 24 hours after the pandemic is because they were starting to get a lot of homeless people who would pay for their time, 12 hours or whatever it was,
and
there.
Just stay there.
And
like
stay there, but just for that, because that was a way to get out and have a place to stay, take a bath and all that.
That's actually a smart idea.
Of course it is, yeah. But he said that that's the reason that they hadn't gone back to 24 hours. I mean, the Flex still is, and like I said, that's a bathhouse. And, they got the
what do you do
pool and
here?
hot tub and all that, so...
But what do you do here now?
Here, the only game in town is the Slammer.
What's the Slammer?
The Slammer's in Silver Lake. It's a sex club, so you're not walking around in a towel or anything like that. You don't have a pool. It's just, like a lot of opportunities for sex. And it's, gay men. And I think I told you that one time that there was a guy who thought that it was men and women. And he said, "Are there any women here?" And I said, "No, there's not."
Yeah.
And, I don't know if
Poor
they
guy.
gave him his money back or what, but yeah, so that was kind of funny.
That's why in the just straight regular swing clubs, they don't allow single men.
Right.
And for my
Because there would be nothing but a bunch of men and hardly any women.
That's
correct.
Yeah.
And they wanted to avoid that.
Sure.
And for my ex-wife, that was a plus if they let in single men.
Well, yeah.
So then they agreed to do, this one club agreed to do Sunday nights. They'll allow single men.
Yeah.
But, who comes on Sunday night? Work is the
Well,
next
that's part of the reason, though, is, a slower night and to
Correct.
get more business. And they know that men are going to pay to get in, in the hopes that there's going to be, some opportunity.
Well,
Absolutely,
and
because
that's-
sex sells.
That's the thing with straight men.
Men are horn dogs. No, all men.
They're all men.
Yes.
Gay men just with a different
Exactly.
Will
target.
go for anything that's going to get them off.
Exactly.
And so I think there is a lot of married men that do that,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
especially over 40.
You're
because
exactly right.
The kids are grown, and
Yep.
sex with the wife is stale, and
Yeah, or non-existent.
or non-existent. And
Yeah.
they're still horny.
Yeah.
and other men their age.
Men are
still
always
too.
horny. It doesn't matter what age they are. Even if
Correct.
they're still having trouble getting it up, they're
Yeah.
still horny.
If it works, they.
Yeah.
That's why Viagra and Cialis.
Yeah, and I've told you my story. I'm sure I've told everybody about giving the guy a blowjob at the adult theater in Phoenix, like a few blocks away from the fairgrounds, and he was talking to his wife on the phone, telling her, "Oh yeah, I just dropped the kids off. I'll be back in a couple hours to pick them up." And I was giving him a blowjob while he's talking to her on the
about that?
phone.
Yeah.
I mean, because it
How
was
about
right
that?
down the street. The fairgrounds was right down the street from where I was, and it's like there's a whole bunch.
They don't
of,
tell their wives.
No.
They don't tell their friends because
No.
they might look gay.
No, last time I was in Phoenix, I was messing around with the guy I worked with, and it took me a few minutes
In
to
Phoenix?
figure out, who he was. But I'm like, I kept looking at him, thinking he looks familiar, and I realized I worked with him at the city of Phoenix. And he was married to a woman at that time.
Right.
I don't know if he still was, but I
Probably
finally
still.
figured out who the hell he was. I'm like, oh, that's Ken. I remember him. And obviously, he didn't remember me. I looked a lot different way back then. But I'm like, I know who you are. And he was there looking for whatever he could get.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of even preference.
No, it really
Just get
isn't.
off.
Yeah,
I need to
exactly.
get off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's fine. As long
is
as
fine.
everybody's there for that reason.
Absolutely
No
fine.
big deal.
It's fine for women too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing I
course.
don't understand. It's like that is the worst excuse for a relationship to break up, is that somebody had a dalliance. It's like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
If they're not emotionally connected to that person, why do you care?
Well, my first wife and me at the time thought, okay, you're having sex with somebody and you're exclusive, and that's the way it should remain.
Okay.
And her brother used to say to her, "Why do you have to marry every man you fuck?" Because she married me, but I was her second marriage. And what he was saying in that statement is, sex and love are two different things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And men do, I have to say, men understand that, maybe not consciously, because it's always about them having affairs or behind the backs of their wives or whatever. Whereas if it were something discussed, like, can I do this?
It's okay.
Eric has something, a story about that, because you had a girlfriend that used to tell you.
Sorry, a story about. Remind me what the story's about. I was spacing out there for a second.
You had a girlfriend that told you, you can go have sex with other people.
Oh, yeah. Well, Betsy. Point of that story was Betsy was like, we had a nice, it was a complicated relationship, but, she'd tell me, like, you can fuck other girls. It's fine. Like, I'd be okay with that. Which a younger me would have been like, oh, that's the dream. Just go out and just fuck other girls. But the crazy thing was, I didn't want to. I just, I had no interest in it. Which, a younger me would have been like, are you crazy? Why not just get a little bit strange? But, I just didn't have any, I was good with what Betsy was putting out.
Wow. That is
But
really-
both emotionally and physically. So, it was, it scratched both itches.
Yeah, and I think for me that's been one of the confusing things, is that I don't most of the time get emotionally attached to somebody just because I'm physical with them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as Garr would
I
always
don't
say,
have
there's two
any
different
problem
things.
with that, and I know that that's kind of what is put out there for us. Especially if we're straight, but you're supposed to be with somebody physically and emotionally that you care about, and it's like, no, I mean, sometimes you just want sex.
Absolutely, and that's totally
and
fine.
that should be okay to just have sex and know this is it. There's no connection between us whatsoever. And if we should do this again, that's great. But we're never going to be emotionally involved in a relationship, talking about each other's hopes and dreams and feelings.
On the other side, they think that too. They're there for anonymous sex.
Absolutely.
And I think that in our culture especially, it's really challenging to say, I just want unencumbered sex.
Do you think so? Really? Today?
People don't readily admit it. I think at some point in our past,
in different
I think
ways,
in the 70s and stuff, it was okay to be for free love and just being with whomever you wanted to.
But nowadays...
But now it's like not really acceptable to
nowadays,
say,
I think that there are strata of society.
I'm in a relationship, but I would just like to have sex with people sometimes.
Well, there are the people who have like the polyamorous relationships and...
was talking to another mother. I have a daughter, and I was talking to a mother of another child. And she asked me how I was and all this, and we had known each other, and I said something about, I don't want to have another relationship. I'm so comfortable not having it. It's the first time in my life that I feel like I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
And I was telling her that, and I said, and if I could find somebody to roll around with every now and then. And then she giggled, and then I told her the whole story of the time that I found somebody to roll around with, and then I thought, oh, TMI, way too much information, and now I feel bad. I always feel like I need to apologize.
Nah, well,
I wasn't looking at it like sex. Yeah. And that branches into the whole thing of sex being fluid, like we were talking about.
Well, certainly.
We're talking about sex being fluid.
All things are on a spectrum.
It's not static in everybody for over time.
Yeah.
You may have different views of it.
Yeah.
But those change.
Sure. Yeah. Like
you can't step into the same river twice.
Yes. You would have one version of what you would be looking for 10 years ago as opposed to now.
Lighter.
Right. And it's nice because hopefully if we're doing life right, we get broader as we get older and more mature. So maybe we thought we would only want to be with these certain people 10, 20 years ago, but now it's like, I can see being with these or these, it might be kind of fun.
Well,
it could be a good variety. You grow, and that's the point with everything, with what movies you enjoy seeing, what music you like listening to, and hopefully the kind of people you want to be around, that you're more broad as you get older. Where I know that, like for me, some of the people I went to high school with, according to Facebook, they've stayed just as narrow as they were in high school. And it's like, okay, well, if nothing else, I've gotten broader and more accepting than I was in high school, and I am happy about that.
You're not the norm, though, or.
But I don't get that because I never think of myself as anything unusual. I don't think of myself as an anomaly. I think if I'm like this, everybody else has to have gotten like this.
Well, I think that's the ideal, right? Is to just continue, is to be dynamic as a person, just to keep growing from your experiences. And I think that a lot of people do that, but a lot of people do stagnate. And I think a big part of it for a lot of people is when they start having kids, and so then they're more focused on that, and they're just less tuned into the world around them, and so then they sort of fossilize the sorts of stuff that they're feeling at that time.
I guess
not for everyone, but
what confuses me is that some of the people that I've kept in touch with through Facebook that I went to high school with have basically, in my mind, turned into their grandparents.
Or maybe on top of the...
And I'm like, you were cool and hanging out and smoking pot in the park.
Right.
At lunchtime, and now you've basically turned into your grandparents that are living in Sun City. It's like, what the hell happened to you? Like, one of the cool guys that was on the football team is posting religious shit, and I'm like, what the hell happened to you? I mean, you were cool. You were like somebody that I could not hope to be friends with, and now you're like posting religious shit, and it's like, what? How did that happen? I don't get that. You're supposed to get broader and more exposed and open as you get older.
Well, you would think because you're logical and you're open.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are not like that. They find something and they go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You know, this is the path I'm taking. I get in my car at this time. I go to work. I come back. Whatever.
As I was saying, you fossilize. You know, you just get into a rut.
I have friends that have segmented their life that way, and it works for them because they found an organization for their family. And you may know families like this. They have Christmas cards where they're all dressed in white and smiling, and you know, we're the happy flim flam family. You know, whatever.
Well, I've seen that. I never knew anybody like
those
that.
Those are always the shockers when they break up, or wow, they were so in love. What happened? You know, and they're just like anybody else. They're just segmenting their life and making it look like they got their shit together.
Okay.
None of us really have our shit together because we don't know why we're here or how we fit into a bigger universe.
But some of us don't even bother thinking about that.
We're not. They're not.
Well, and maybe for the better, you know. Like, I mean, because as I'm always telling Garr over here, you know, like the universe is scary to think about because there's no real meaning to it, and like we all have to sort of like create our own meaning. And if you have something to cling to, you know, some vague religious beliefs or whatever, then you've got sort of source of meaning. And if you don't, then you kind of have to make your own meaning, and that's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary and it's empowering at the same time.
I agree so much.
Right.
Betsy struggled with this quest. Oh yeah, while you were away, Garr, we talked about how Betsy was like, "Oh yeah, you can fuck other people," and I was like, "But I didn't want to," which is crazy because a younger Éric would have been all on that.
Right.
But I got everything I needed emotionally and physically from Betsy, and so.
Well, it taught you the lesson about what was actually more important, and
I had already learned that lesson actually.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was proof of that.
It was proof in the pudding, absolutely.
And that's a wonderful thing. You know, and the fact that she would be so much into that idea that we have something else.
Mm-hmm.
We have something that's going to be better, inevitably better, or hopefully better than just anonymous sex. And again, sex is, you know, it's a big cauldron because our reptilian brains are telling us to mate and reproduce, but we've added things to it to provide for a long period of growth for our children because they require many years of growth. They're not reptiles. They don't just immediately go into the environment and they're fine. So because of that, we need to nest, so we need to find those relationships that are deep and strong and worthwhile. The problem is our culture has put together sex with that.
Well, they are related. They're not the same thing. Absolutely. There's an important distinction, and you can have intimacy without sex, and you can have sex without emotions. You know, yeah, absolutely, and everything in between. Everything in between.
Yes, and a lot of it is you could be told these things when you're young. But I think the real proof in the pudding is whether you're learning from the lessons of the mistakes that you're making.
Well, that's the goal for all of us always. You know, we should be lifelong learners, and fucking up is the strongest teacher.
It shows itself so much in sex.
It does, and in relationships.
And the weird thing is, my friend, who I just got back into touch with last year, I haven't talked to him since I met Bruce, actually.
Why?
Because we had a falling out, and I was like stubborn. And I was like, you know what? I'm fine if he calls me and wants to reconnect, but I'm not going to call him.
Maybe it's your fault because he probably.
It wasn't my fault. That's the whole point.
I'm not going to call him until he calls
No, because I remember, and I will never bring it up unless he brings it up first. But I know why we stopped talking because, and I totally was not being unreasonable, and it was just like a last straw sort of thing where. He's a very high maintenance friend, and I love him dearly, but he's very high maintenance. Mm-hmm. And it's like this last thing is like, okay, I can't handle that.
Right.
You know, and I had a blow up, and I realized that was my fault, the blow up. But if he called me the next day, I'd be fine. I wouldn't have cared. But he didn't, and so we never talked again until, last year, and he found out.
Oh, you did call. Oh, okay.
He reached out to me because he was thinking about my mom, and he Googled, he found out she had passed, and so he reached out to me to let me. Yes, it was very nice. And so every day we're like texting back and forth like a couple of like 12-year-olds. And it's really nice because I work in a very isolated environment. So it's nice to have somebody that's connecting with me throughout the day, So it's not work related, but it's nice.
Well, not everything has to be work related.
Oh, please. Any more does anything
Everything
have
needs
to be?
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Now Richard's back. He's going to tell you what he thinks of it.
Well, I think that we're getting ready. I think we're getting ready for another round. Whenever you're.
I do need another round.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you think you're going to have now?
Shandy is always available. Do you like a shandy,
That would
Richard?
be okay.
Yes, shandy is always very nice.
Yeah. Who knows what weird,
Who
good stuff we'll
knows what
say.
we'll be talking about next?
Yeah. Okay.
Bunnies of Ethiopia.
So you were talking, Garr, about Qingtao.
Yes, we love the Qingtao beer
Yeah.
because it gives us dully ones in our waddy duds.
Oh, hey, Richard, what are you drinking over there?
I think it's a shanty.
Oh, a shandy. Yeah. Hey, Garr, tell us about a shandy.
Now, a shandy is half, for us, it's half Qingtao beer and half lemonade.
Yeah, it's traditional in England.
Really?
Now their lemonade over there is sparkling.
Oh.
So it'll be like half beer and half lemonade, but for them it's sparkling.
Okay.
In Germany,
That's because they don't know any better.
yeah, that's right. Well, it's just a difference of culture or whatever. In Germany, they find it a very refreshing drink, and so they will have it after they go out cycling, and so they call it a radler, which means a cyclist. And I had told Garr that several times, and then I happened.
I wasn't listening.
No. I mean, it had come up a couple of times. No. Garr remembered, because we love drinking our shandies, and Garr loves citrus fruits.
Okay, so now we were talking about this band. They're no longer. I don't think they're any longer around. They were an interesting band. I don't know where they are now. I should research.
Really?
But I
So
really
what was the
liked
name of
them
this?
when they
This
were
is
around.
Math. Math. Yeah.
And I liked them because there was a progressive element in their music,
Oh.
yet they remained kind of poppy like that.
Oh.
Like, this is a perfect song. It's
Yeah.
it's got the verse and the chorus,
Yep.
and it's got that lick, which keeps you in the song.
Yeah.
It's a trick, It's it just keeps you in.
Sure.
I know that.
Well, I'm just thinking from my point of view, I don't know who they are, but at least two of them I would totally want to bang. So,
Is that
now-
always on your mind?
Yes,
Now, wait,
exactly.
wait.
But I mean,
Come
it
on,
engages me. It makes me want to, especially with the video, it makes me want to watch.
Excuse me, Richard. Follow-up question: which two would you bang?
Yeah, which
The two that are right there in the front seat.
Yeah, well, first off, Mr. on the left here,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Like, that's the kind of guy that I'm like, he knows what's up.
Yeah. But the other one, because
Well, the other one is your classic hunk or whatever. He's the
and
cute boy
he's the
of the
one
group.
doing the singing and
Yeah.
all
Well,
that,
he's
so
also a
it
keyboard player,
engages you.
which he only plays a little bit in that
Yeah.
video. But if you look, I mean, come on, people. This looks like something that might be a live performance because they're very. So till I mentioned them tonight.
Uh-huh.
I haven't thought about them since they were around.
Oh.
And I really loved them when they were around, and just haven't thought about them because they're not around. So, or at least that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
No, that's like post-rock or something, right?
Yeah, it's experimental and it's melodic.
Yeah, my friend Thad is really into the like post-rock sort of stuff now. And it's funny because like that's not a thing I'd ever really heard of before.
I never heard it.
And he was like, "Oh, I'm getting into this," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I look it up, and I'm like, "Oh, I like this band. I like this band. I like this band." I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I like post-rock."
Yeah.
I had never, it was one of those. I mean, progressive rock was that for me. You know, I liked Magma and Pink Floyd and whatever.
You would really get into them.
Oh yeah. I was talking about in terms of discovering genres.
You do some interesting stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I dig that.
Now we've gone to see They Might Be Giants yesterday.
Oh yeah. Hey, talk a little bit about that.
You were there. Oh no, you weren't there. You were there.
I was there. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that, Garr. Talk a little about the concert we went to.
They had us packed in like sardines.
That's what I heard. Yeah. Yes.
And then wherever you stood, you weren't supposed to stand there. That's my only gripe about it.
How so?
Well, it was standing room only, but it wasn't very clear which areas were designated for which kinds of tickets or whatever.
Packed in.
Sure. Yeah.
So there was no room for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So you were on the outskirts of the line, then you were... And what I was thinking the whole time is they do this because this is regulation. This is fire regulation.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, if there was a fire or some other thing, those people would still stampede.
Yes.
It wouldn't make any difference if they had those aisles cleared or not. People are stampeding.
Of course.
So that's the silly part about it. It's like they could have packed us into sardines and had us take up the aisles too. It would have made no difference in safety whatsoever.
Well, as I was saying before, you know, I mean, concerts are always a fire hazard.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the show. As I said, they made a video of themselves playing a song backwards and then played it back in the second act, and it was cool. It was cool hearing that song.
Yeah.
They sang and performed it backwards, but recorded it, and then they played that recording, played backwards, and created a forwards version of the song.
And as Éric was saying,
just to clarify for our audience,
it was such a They Might Be Giants thing to do.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was so up their alley. Oh my God.
I remember, I think on Conan O'Brien, I want to say, they were on, and they did a song, and they said, we're going to record this on an Ediphone, the Edison,
Oh, yes.
the early Edison wax cylinders that you put in, you could record yourself. And so they recorded the entire song on the Ediphone, and then at the end credits, they played the Ediphone version. It was really cool sounding.
I mean, the Ediphone is technically analog, you know?
Yes, it was a totally analog recording and such a They Might Be Giants thing to do.
Yes. Again, they're very nerdy, but very creative in their nerdiness.
That is their appeal to me, is the nerdiness.
Right, but they're not nerdy in that sort of like, oh, I like...
Really nerdy, and they sing about nerdy things, and when Éric was a young boy, he used to watch the Cartoon Network, and they would play in between the cartoons.
Yes. Well, yeah,
And what was the song they played?
Well, okay, well, see, and on this one, actually, technically, this would have been on the Nickelodeon. But
Nickelodeon.
Yes, well, so there was a show, Tiny Toons. I think I've talked to you about this before, Garr. Which is it was all the Warner Brothers characters, but in a younger form. It was by the Warner Brothers Studios, but it was actually originally on, I think, Fox, but then was re-aired on Nickelodeon.
That's right.
Anyway, so they did Particle Man and Istanbul, Not Constantinople on Tiny Toons. You know, Tiny Toons used to do like animated music videos, and Tiny Toons actually had, instead of like 10,000 cells, they had 25,000 cells. It was a very well animated show. Garr, you would actually be really into it.
That show.
Oh, you did watch it? Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I was. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so they did those. When I was showing my girlfriend Natalie, when I went to show her some of the videos, whatever, it was the Tiny Toons version. So I was like, well, yeah, you know, like people my age, that was their first exposure to They Might Be Giants. And then they were also on this show called Kablam, which did like little like cartoons. You know, there was like, you know, like these like indie cartoons played like in a compilation. And some They Might Be Giants music videos were on there. So for the Sun song, Why Does the Sun Shine, that they did, and they paused in the middle or whatever, we're a little weird about it, that was on there, and so was Dr. Worm, which we heard as the finale. Yeah. Which is great. Yeah, I love that song. That song was originally a studio recording, one of only 3, on a live album that they released. My favorite of their live albums, Severe Tire Damage. Yeah, there were 3. That's the one, Garr, I think, that has the Planet of the Apes outro thing where they're doing like a, you know, they do all these little Planet of the Apes inspired recordings.
Right.
again, a very nerdy band. The nerdiest band you've ever heard
I love
of.
that about them.
I know.
That's their appeal. That's for me. That's their appeal.
Sure,
I enjoy that because I picture them recording this stuff in the bedroom or somewhere. Because that's what the first 3 albums were.
No, see, so they were. Well, yes,
Just
the
two
first.
guys.
Yeah. The first. Yeah, I several. It's somewhere between the first 2 and 4. I don't remember which the first one. Where I should have checked beforehand. But they were originally on an indie label, Nonesuch, maybe, or something like that. And they were a big seller for that because they got big on the college radio. Don't Let's Start and Ang, some of these early hits. And then they play. I was telling Natalie on the way home from the concert, I was like, I was thinking while I was watching the show, they've got 3 big constituencies, right? They've got the people who were in their late teens, early 20s when they were first getting started in the late 80s and early 90s. So, late boomers and then various ages of Gen Xers.
Late 80s.
Yeah. Who listen to them on the college radio, who are into those sorts of songs. And then there are the people who are my age, like millennials, who first heard some of their songs on 90s cartoons. And then later on Cartoon Network, the things that Garr and I have talked about, the Cartoon Network groovies, which I was really into. They would have some of their songs on there, and Homestar Runner and various other places. So, that crowd. Yeah. And then in the 2000s, I forget about this because I was not the target demographic, but they started releasing educational children's albums. Here come the ABCs, here come the 1-2-3s.
Those are fantastic.
Really?
Yeah. The stuff it's pretty good because they might be Giant style songs, but trying to tell you how the powers of 5 work or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
So then there's also a Gen Z crowd who, grew up on that sort of stuff. And but the concert that we went to was clearly more geared towards mostly the me crowd, because they were playing a lot of those Dr. Worm and the Sun Song, whatever. A lot of those ones that people my age would have watched on TV. But they did also play "Don't Let's Start," which is was the banger off their first album.
Birdhouse.
Birdhouse was also on Flood. They played all the songs on Flood. To be fair,
was their biggest hit probably was Birdhouse.
Yes, it was. It is still their best-selling single. Yes.
But what's wonderful about them is they have managed to create their own career and get a cult following, which to me is that is the best.
Sure.
The cult following is better than the huge stardom.
It's pure.
Yeah.
It's usually loyal.
Yes. Exactly.
So these people are going to go to whenever they might be trying. They probably go to more than one.
And there were all stripes there. There were people who clearly are diehard fans, and then people who were just my age who were I remember this on TV in the 90s.
Right. Well, but to be fair, as you say, you delved into their catalog.
Oh, I absolutely did
because of your interest.
Yes.
It sparked his interest from what he heard and what he saw.
Well, it was one of those things where I got into music when I was in my teens or whatever, and I had heard They Might Be Giant songs earlier, and I still liked a lot of them. Some of the ones I heard were real bangers. The Why Is the Sunshine and Dr. Worm and Particle Man are all great, and Istanbul are all great songs.
Yeah.
So I kept those songs, and so then I would look more into it and be okay, well, I'll get this album Flood that's got Particle Man and
I love that about you because you want to delve into you don't stay on the surface.
Well, as you and I,
most people are on the surface.
That's true, and that's fine too.
Yes.
I mean, delving in for me is exciting. Other people, just like hearing the hits. But as Garr and I have talked about before, I love an album where you can just listen to all the songs on the album. They Might Be Giant's Flood is one of those. There's a couple songs that I'll usually skip just because I'm a big Genesis fan. Selling Alien by the Pound, I always skip. I Know What I Like. It's a good song, but I don't like it on that album.
See how he is. So that's you and me have to go to the Musical Box when they play.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
There's a band called Musical Box, and they play Genesis songs.
Oh,
and
they do the Genesis concerts,
but they do it exact, note for note, and
except for Homeboy's voice, which is
he's pretty good at doing a Peter.
He's pretty good at doing Peter Gabriel, but he does still sound a little bit like him. I don't mind it.
It's going to be anyway.
Yeah. Honestly, he does a very good job.
So I went with somebody that was really in Genesis, and we went and saw Musical Box, and I was like, "Fuck, this is really good." 'Cause it was live they're really good. And so the band Genesis found out about them,
Of course.
and then offered them all their tracks.
Oh, really?
So they could, get everything exactly
Wow.
as they played it.
Sure.
And they sanctioned them as their official
Yep.
band. So if they ever come around, we could all go.
Oh, I'd love it.
You would love it, yes.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I know I would because, like, I mean, I
didn't
adore.
walk away going, okay, it's another Beatle band.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
I didn't
sure.
walk away thinking, okay.
Well, from my
they tried
perspective,
their best.
I never got the chance to see early 70s Genesis.
This is your chance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm aware of that. Like I know that. I've never really had the opportunity to see the musical box, but I was like, yeah, I mean, if the opportunity arose, I'd certainly go.
My favorite was Lamb Lies Down. They did, Foxtrot and.
Sung England.
Yeah, they did that. Well, they did that song you don't listen to.
Oh, I know what I like. Yeah, of course.
Down.
I like Dancing on the Moonlit Night.
So when I was in high school, they were a band to if you were in the know in music, it was like a big thing to show off. Like, here's the obscure band that you don't even know about.
Okay.
Kind of a thing. And Genesis was that for a while.
Genesis was big in Belgium and Italy long before they were big in England and later the United States.
So I wanted to be on the know. So of course I got into Genesis.
Yeah.
It was a different Genesis than the '80s Genesis.
Oh yes, night and day.
Without Peter Gabriel was the guy in the band. So I did what you now do later, which is nerded out on everything they ever did.
Yeah.
And wanted to know everything about them. So I was telling Eric.
Yeah.
What was I telling you?
About Genesis.
I like.
It's a whole different experience.
The what?
It's a whole different experience from
What
back
is?
when.
What's a whole different
Genesis.
experience? Genesis is a whole different.
Yes, from the 80s to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes, yeah,
Genesis is different.
totally different band.
Yes.
Totally different band. Yes.
Yes.
Without Peter Gabriel.
Well, I mean, it's more than just that because you listen to the Wind and Weathering. Wind and
That's
Weathering.
actually okay, but it's still not the same.
It's not the same, but it's that same sort of idea. Of course, the band was not going to be the same without Peter Gabriel.
Left the audition singers, and they couldn't find a singer that sang Peter Gabriel as well as Phil Collins in the band.
Who had already been doing a lot of backing vocals, which is crazy for a drummer. Phil Collins,
Sure.
Yes,
a talented man.
and I went and saw them with Phil Collins.
Really?
That was like the first year, the Wind and the Weathering.
Yeah, was it the Wind and Weathering or was it Trick of the Tail?
Trick of the Tail. Sorry.
Yes.
That Wind and the Weathering.
I appreciate Trick of the Tail. I got into that album. I got into that album really early on into my Genesis journey, my Genesis exodus, because that song Los Endos samples bits from Supper's Ready. Angels standing in the sun.
Yes.
A clever idea, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I got into the song about the spires of gold and all that, whatever. Trick of the Tail song, the one right before that.
Yeah.
The title track.
It's different.
It is different, yeah.
When you compare it to Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, it's...
Well, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is unique among Genesis albums.
So that was the pinnacle of Genesis as far as their creative juices as a band. Was Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. And it was a Peter Gabriel thing.
Well, I mean, Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks again,
But they never performed it live because Peter Gabriel left the band right after that.
No, they did perform it live, and Peter Gabriel would put on the Slipperman outfit and all that stuff.
They never performed it live.
Lamb Lies Down, yeah.
Where?
Lots of places. I don't know. Look
Really?
it up. Yeah. They had a tour that was the nail in the coffin for the band.
Well,
That and the isolation during the recording because Peter Gabriel was going through a difficult pregnancy with his wife, his first wife, the one who had the experience with him that inspired Supper's Ready with seeing the ghosts or whatever.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Peter Gabriel, there was some sort of ghost or demon possession or something. I don't know. Look it up. We don't claim to know everything on this podcast. I forgot.
We don't know everything, and that's the beauty of it, is none of us know everything.
That's right. None of you listeners do, but if you do, you can tweet at Garr.
Correct, because I see here a little movie of
Well,
some kind of performance.
Well, whatever it was, I probably was correct. I don't know.
The first thing we're going to see is a commercial. You have been listening to Shooting the Shindig.
With Eric and
Garr.
Hey Garr, where can they find you?
GarrStudios.com. GarMontalbano.bandcamp.com. Those are good to start.
Yeah. Get your toes wet with the Garr. All right, everybody. Good night.